Hi, I'm Sophia, a 28-year-old new mother, navigating the enchanting yet treacherous waters of motherhood. Those first days at home with my newborn son? A kaleidoscope of emotions, pure bliss tangled with sheer exhaustion. While my heart overflowed with love, my body was in rebellion, grappling with the relentless aftermath of childbirth. The house? A battlefield. Laundry loomed in intimidating piles, dishes stacked precariously in the sink, and the air buzzed with the soft cries of my baby. It was one of those chaotic afternoons when, in the middle of soothing my wailing son, the doorbell rang. Unexpected visitors were the last thing I needed. It was Linda, my mother-in-law, stepping inside like an uninvited storm. Her eyes darted around the room, scanning the clutter before landing on me with that unmistakable cocktail of concern and disapproval. "I thought I'd come by to see how you're managing, dear," she said, stepping carefully over a stray baby toy. "Tom mentioned you might need some help." I forced a smile, masking my unease. "Thanks, Linda. Things are hectic, but we're managing," I replied, my voice straining to sound steady. She didn't seem convinced. Walking into the kitchen, her sharp gaze swept over the mountain of unwashed dishes. "It looks like you could use more than a little help," she remarked, her tone cutting. Then came the dagger. "Is this how you plan to raise my grandson?" Her words hit like a thunderclap, leaving me stunned. My heart raced as the weight of her judgment pressed down on me. "I'm doing the best I can," I said, defensively clutching my son a little tighter. Linda sighed, her disapproval palpable. "Sophia, being a mother is about prioritizing. Right now, it seems like you're prioritizing nothing." Before I could respond, Tom walked in. His eyes flickered between us, immediately sensing the tension. "Mom, Sophia is doing an amazing job. It's been tough with the baby not sleeping well," he said, stepping in to defend me. But Linda wasn't backing down. Turning to Tom, she declared, "You need to help her understand what's at stake. This isn't just about cleaning the house, it's about responsibility. She's failing to meet the family standards." Tom looked torn, glancing at me and then back at his mother. "Mom, please, let's not do this now. Sophia's recovering, and that's precisely why you can't be soft on her," Linda snapped. "If she doesn't learn now, she'll never manage in the future." And then, to my horror, Tom caved. "Maybe you're right, Mom. Maybe Sophia needs to learn the hard way." Those words were a betrayal that cut deeper than any wound. Linda nodded approvingly, stepping aside as Tom approached me. What happened next will forever be etched into my memory. His hand struck my cheek, the sound reverberating through the room like a violent thunderclap. I stumbled back, clutching my son protectively as his cries mingled with my own silent scream. "Tom, what are you doing?" I gasped, tears streaming down my face. The sting of the slap was nothing compared to the ache of his betrayal. "This is for your own good, Sophia. You need to learn," he said hollowly, his eyes refusing to meet mine. The room fell into a suffocating silence, broken only by the soft whimpers of my baby. Linda stood like a statue, her expression unreadable, her presence a silent approval of what had just unfolded. That night, as I rocked my son to sleep in the nursery, a space that had once been my haven, I made a decision. I couldn't stay. Not in this house, not with these people. What was supposed to be a sanctuary had turned into a prison, and I had to escape. The next morning, while Tom was at work and Linda nowhere in sight, I picked up the phone and called the only person I could trust. Jessica answered on the second ring. "Jess, it's me." "I need that help you offered," I said, my voice a fragile blend of fear and resolve. "Say no more, Sophia. I'll come by today with my truck. We'll figure it out together," Jessica replied, her voice a lifeline of hope. And just like that, the plan was set. I would pack the essentials, just enough for my son and me, and Jessica would help us leave before Tom returned. As I packed each baby outfit, every tiny toy felt like a question mark. Could I really do this? Was I strong enough? By late afternoon, the garage was filled with boxes, memories of a life I was determined to leave behind. When Jessica arrived, her reassuring smile cut through my doubt. "Ready?" she asked, her tone firm, yet kind. I nodded, holding my son close as the sun dipped below the horizon. It was time to reclaim our freedom. Hope? In what felt like one of the darkest days of my life, it was finally within reach. "Ready?" Jessica asked, her voice calm yet strong, as she stepped into the living room. She took in the sight of my life reduced to boxes and bags. I could hardly believe it myself. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, clutching my son a little tighter, as though the weight of this moment could somehow be softened by holding him close. We moved with the kind of efficiency you only see in well-oiled machines. The nursery, my sanctuary, was the last room I cleared. I paused there, just for a moment, to say a silent goodbye to the dreams I had once harbored for the life I wanted to build with Tom. And then, it was time to go. I drove away, watching my home fade in the rearview mirror, a chapter closing behind me. My heart was heavy, but it was also filled with hope. The house that once felt like a prison now felt like a distant memory. My baby, peacefully sleeping in his seat, was blissfully unaware of the monumental change happening around him. But I, at last, felt safe. This was the first night of our new life, one where fear and manipulation would no longer hold sway. At Jessica's place, I found the peace and support I had longed for. The contrast was stark, her home, a sanctuary, my own, a battlefield. It was here, amidst this calm, that I began to plot my next steps. I wasn't just leaving. No, I needed to expose Tom and Linda for what they truly were, to ensure they couldn't manipulate anyone else. I needed to be heard. So, I started reaching out to family and friends. At first, it was casual, just catching up. But in every conversation, I subtly asked about Linda's behavior, about Tom's strange submission to her. At first, some were hesitant to speak, but many were completely unaware of the depth of the manipulation that had been quietly poisoning our family dynamic. Over the weeks, the puzzle pieces slowly started to fit together. Text messages, voicemails, recorded calls. I even managed to capture video footage of Linda, clearly coaching Tom on how to control me. With everything in place, I chose the venue. Tom's sister was hosting a family gathering for her anniversary, and it would be the perfect setting, neutral ground, with enough relatives present who had expressed discomfort with Linda's iron grip on the family. The day of the gathering, my nerves were a tightly wound coil. I arrived with Jessica, who had agreed to stand by me, supporting me through this confrontation. The initial greetings were polite but lukewarm. The tension was palpable. The recent domestic issues between Tom and me were the talk of the family, and it was clear everyone had heard whispers of what was really happening behind closed doors. After the pleasantries, I stood. My hands trembled, but my voice? It was steady, firm. "I have something important to share with all of you today," I began, every eye in the room locking on me. "It's about Tom and his mother, Linda. Their actions have not only impacted me and my son, but this entire family." Tom looked stunned, his face pale. "Sophia, let's not do this here," he tried to interrupt, his voice shaky. But I wasn't backing down. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the Bluetooth speaker. The room fell silent as Linda's sharp directives and Tom's hesitant replies filled the air. The room's reaction was immediate: shock, disgust, disbelief. Tom's aunt, who had always been kind to me, looked betrayed. "Is this true, Linda? Were you really forcing Tom to do these things?" she demanded, her voice trembling with anger. Linda, her face a mask of fury and panic, tried to deflect. "These recordings are out of context," she snapped. But Tom's cousin, who had been quiet until now, stood up. "No, they're not," he said. "We've seen hints of this for years. We just didn't want to believe it." And with those words, the tide shifted. Relatives began speaking up, sharing their own observations, revealing years of manipulation under the guise of family care. Tom, pale and silent, finally saw the truth. His mother's web of control had ensnared him for years. The truth was out, for all to see. The weight lifted off my shoulders, and for the first time in a long while, I felt lighter. The aftermath of the confrontation was quieter than I expected. A somber realization settled over everyone involved. Tom's family, long under Linda's thumb, now saw her for what she truly was, a manipulator. The discomfort was palpable, the shock undeniable. But for me, the decision to leave Tom was both necessary and heart-wrenching. As the family gathering broke up, the finality of my choice was clear. I gathered my son, still blissfully unaware of the storm that had just raged, and with one last look at the family home, I stepped into the unknown. Tom watched us leave, his eyes filled with sorrow and resignation. His voice, once so familiar, now seemed distant as he whispered a quiet, "Goodbye." Linda, on the other hand, was faced with an even harsher reality. The family she had controlled with such precision was now turning away from her, one by one. Her attempts to regain control fell on deaf ears. The evidence was too strong, the collective testimony too damning. In the weeks that followed, Tom tried to reach out. His messages were a mix of apologies, pleas for understanding, and promises of change. But the memory of his hand raised against me, the echo of his mother's voice in his actions, created a wall too high to climb. The trust was shattered. Our marriage was irreparably broken. I found solace in a small apartment, far from the neighborhood that once felt like home. A place where no one knew my story. Jessica remained my steadfast support, helping me navigate this new life. My days were filled with simple routines, caring for my son, rebuilding a world that was free from the shadows of the past. The healing was slow, often painful. There were days when the weight of everything felt unbearable. But the freedom to make choices, real choices, without fear, was a powerful motivator. I sought therapy. I joined support groups for single mothers. Gradually, the pieces of the woman I had once been started to come together. And each day, my confidence grew. My son's laughter became my anchor, his milestones the light guiding me forward. Months turned into a year. One evening, as I tucked my son into bed, surrounded by his toys and drawings, I reflected on the journey. The pain of the past still lingered, but it no longer defined me. The light of new beginnings was far stronger than the shadow of what had been. The support of friends, and the unconditional love of my son, had woven a safety net strong enough to catch me on the days I faltered. With a cup of tea in hand, I finally felt ready to share my story. I started a blog, a place to speak about my experiences and connect with others who are fighting their own battles against manipulation and abuse. Each post was a step further from the victim I had been, and a step closer to the advocate I was becoming. As our story of resilience and courage comes to a close, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. Do you believe it's possible to truly break free from manipulative family dynamics? Or do the shadows of those relationships linger in our lives forever? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments.